A young couple headed to an unknown lake to fish and camp overnight. They had everything for a romantic night out in the wilderness, and things were going swimmingly until the boyfriend noticed something amiss. His girlfriend, who was supposed to fetch him a beer, was seen walking into the dark abyss of the cold water. Frantically, he called out to her to the point that he needed to chase after her. Thank goodness, he was fast enough to stop her from moving forward into the deep end. This was when a familiar voice called out his name from the shore. It was his girlfriend. She was at the car collecting the stuff all along. As the boyfriend, who at this point was getting seriously spooked, turned his head back to the water with fear and trepidation, he was going to be pulled into the dark water, and we had a succinctly spine-chilling opening for Salmokji, Whispering Water. Han Soo-jin worked as a producer-director for a company that provided street view photographs like what we had seen in Google Map. A workaholic, Han had been summoned to an urgent meeting on a weekend with other PDs in the company to resolve a furor stirred within the township where a reservoir by the name of Salmokji was located. People had found a weird picture of a ghostly apparition sticking out of the water surface in an instance, which generated a lot of online interest as an urban legend, something the municipal office did not want to be associated with. With a senior Wu, who was the PD responsible for the original site recording, mysteriously missing in action, Han took up the matter of going for a reshoot, especially it was supposed to be a task in the first place. With a team of 4, including a young dating couple who were her assistants, a veteran cameraman Kim and his younger brother, who had joined as extra help, all summoned in the last minute, they set off to Salmokji on a fine day which should not be too difficult to do the reshoot. The destination was not too inaccessible with the help of GPS, however no one expected a tall Khan to appear out of nowhere, leading to a scary Ajuma to creep out of the woodworks, warning the team to rebuild part of the Khan with the stones the impact from the car had displaced, while making a wish at the same time. Not wanting to offend the local people, the team obliged before preparations for the reshoot, which did not come easy as well with multiple technical issues. This was when the disappeared PD Wu made his unannounced appearance to render help to the team. By this point, with the introduction of Salmokji, with what had happened in the prologue and that skin-crawling street view picture, the plot until this point was shrouded with mystery with sparing jump scares. I was more captivated with the whole street view shooting process. As the curmudgeon Kim starting to find Han getting on his nerves as the day unwound, he went on his walk with his hefty equipment as the threat surrounding the team started escalating. A simple reshoot got delayed, and if you are a seasoned hiker in the nature, you should reckon the canopy would make the place look darker an hour before sunset. This was something Han recognized and wanted to defer the shooting to the next day until something unexpected propped up, leading to our characters having to endure those daunting supernatural encounters and generally a lot of instances of mind playing tricks on themselves. Okay, let's get this sticking point out of the way. One of my viewing party brought up the fact that whatever experienced by the various characters felt like a figment of their imagination. Each character had issues festering within themselves with work and personal relationships, and having to work under such conditions with a tight schedule on an off day could also draw some discontent, as well as the skeptics getting bothered with all these talks of the paranormal. To be honest, even the filmmakers make it like some of the phenomena could have a palpable logical explanation, like the human head falling from the trees was actually a type of ceremonial paraphernalia for the local people. That said, the scare factors were on point, and many instances, even when you could feel the jump scares were evidently been telegraphed, I could still feel the hair on the back of my neck standing up. Salmokji Whispering Water took on many laws that were synonymous with East Asia, more inclined towards the Chinese-speaking world. The concept of a water ghost having trapped to the place until they find a replacement by dragging an unsuspecting victim was one classic example, which viewers of my channel should not be foreign to. Going round and round, keep returning to the same place was the classic case of Gui Da Qiang. Then the concept of a doppelganger was something universal. The fiendish entity trying to fool you and lure you into your demise was a probable occurrence on the mountain or in the wilderness. And even setting up of those khans was a practice the Koreans do to appease the mountain spirit or sun shin. It was easy to associate Salmokji to Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, with the basic concept of a renowned, actual, haunted locality in South Korea, with a group of people being seeded out by the entities that reside in these places one by one. Of course, the space for Salmokji, being a man-made reservoir, which being addressed in the movie was built upon a massive burial ground without exhumation, was a much bigger space to disorient the characters, unlike an abandoned hospital building. The characters were not galling thrill seekers, but professionals who had a job to do. Of course, some characters had their own motive in doing something leisure when the work is completed. Han Yang's female assistant Sejong maintained a video channel of paranormal investigation, which naturally piqued her interest to join the reshoot, hoping to capture some unexplained phenomena to bring in the eyeballs. Therefore, it was natural for her to pack equipment like the ghost box and an SLS camera, which heightened the scares in the plot. There was always the belief of a large body of water possessing immense yin energy, serving as warnings from our ancestors to steer clear open waters at night. Naturally, with the dangers of things like undercurrent or probability of contracting hypothermia when you fall into the cold water. When you see the copious amount of tombstones inside the water, you just know this place was truly one not to meddle with. The concept of a reservoir in my country was to provide potable water. However, the real Salmokji was always meant to provide water for agriculture. Therefore, there was no horror of consuming water drawn from a lake filled with dead bodies. Since the day when Hideo Nakata's dark waters had messed me up, seeing a mesh of hair popping in the water can be highly unsettling. And the part of paddling the boat into the middle of a foggy lake got my guard down at first, before you started to wonder if the evil spirits masquerading as another character with the tension simmering to the brim. Salmokji was funded and distributed by cinema chain Showbox, and within days, it broke 1 million cinema goers mark, holding strong as the #1 movie in South Korea for about 3 weeks. It was the next movie after Jang Jae-hyun's Exuma in another strong beat to revitalize the horror genre. While the plot was entrenched with strong folklore and superstitions with the place and the Korean people, there was no overt representation of the shamanism, which became synonymous to many memorable and successful K-horror features. In fact, the movie, written and directed by Lee Shan-min, put in a lot of effort to receive consultation from a mudang who done her best to make sure the filming went without a hitch, with a well-rounded opening production ritual. The hired mudang did reveal that director Lee himself was followed by a couple of spirits during that ritual. The concept of the Khan was well researched, and the bowl with a dagger stuck within the uncooked rice grain had its meaning as well. Living in this part of the world, when I saw the rice grains turning all black in the climatic end, it meant things were getting beyond serious. I like how director Lee planted seeds during the first and second acts, such as Kim's brother was an ex-military diver and was skeptic to the paranormal. He stated that he could swim faster than the water ghost, which we naturally know how things was going to end for him. The ghost box sequence started like one of those ghost hunting hullabaloo for audiences who were accustomed to such content, yet the clarity of the communication felt absurd. However, this scene had a significance at a later part, which dictated the fates of certain characters. Actress Kim Hae-yoon took on the lead role of Han, who had to balance between the fear of the place and the utmost importance to complete the task and managing the team even in the most absurd of situations. She also harbored the guilt, which the scary entity in the place never failed to remind her of. Speaking of which, the unraveling of the mystery of Wu and what happened when he last came to Salmokji and his ailing family problems, as well as the recovery of the SD card, was a great subplot which supplemented the scary vibe of the place and how it played with the minds of people who stayed there for too long. The only plot point that I did not get immediately was with the Ajuma who appeared when the crew arrived. When Han's ex-boyfriend, a fellow PD in their company, came to deliver replacement equipment, he found out that the Ajuma had a daughter hidden in their house who was blatantly of the supernatural persuasion. The old lady role was to deliver the law of the stones for the Khans, which was critical for the fates of Han and her accomplice. It was post-movie, with interviews I've watched, that I realized what role the daughter played in the grand scheme of things. The popularity of the movie also brought curious sightseers and of course, pesky thrill seekers to visit the location in the Yechen County, to a point authorities had to do a lot of precautionary measures to ensure no accidents will happen, especially at night. However, according to the consultant Mudang, the place is now pretty clean in terms of the spiritual residents. Perhaps it takes one to really go down to the ground to have a feel. Salmokji Whispering Water is without a doubt a solid supernatural horror that warrants its box office and critical success. There were scenes that will leave a mark in the crevices of your memory after you left the theatre, and the location of a reservoir with an unsuspecting crew there to do a street view shooting was such a novel idea. I'm awarding the movie an 8 out of 10. One of the trailers prior to the movie was Colony from Train to Busan director Yong San-ho, which made one wonder how would it measure up to the success of that seminal zombie thriller. To hear what I have to say about Colony in due time, please click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Don't forget to like and share this video. I should spread similar urban legends about Bedok Reservoir in Singapore. Oh wait, there were plenty of that already.